Not much is being said about the fact that a certain national brand has recently launched an e-bike on the market. It's capable of looking the top electric mountain bike brand straight in the eye. But I'll tell you something else. And after several weeks testing the iLYNX Plus SL from BH, I've come to a conclusion. This is my opinion that in certain aspects it has overtaken them on the right. Another bike brand that has recently come out on the market and that everyone is talking about. Join me as I share all the pros and cons I've found about this bike. Let's go. Let's move on now to some interesting details about the frame. Motor protector well placed. A fender that I think will do a great job of keeping dirt from getting between the swing arm and the front triangle. Then we have the chain guide, of course, the split pivot system, which has to be mentioned, the Super Boost axles, which will provide that extra stiffness. Lockout on the handlebar. We also have all the internal cabling entering through the headset. The hidden bolts, a traditional element from BH, receive a lot of effort. As you can see in the joint area of the suspension system, it's practically impossible to find any bolts. And probably the detail I would highlight the most has to do with the location of the charging port, taking advantage of the oversized main axle of the suspension system. This is amazing. It looks very aesthetic and clean. They've clearly put a lot of effort into finding this spot. Now let's move on to the electrical system. We are discussing the Shimano EP801 motor with 85 NEM featuring a handlebar display and Shimano's minimalist controller. Let's discuss the battery distribution, which I find the most interesting aspect of this bike. That totals 810 WH split between a 630 WH integrated battery and a 180 WH bottle-shaped range extender. This has several advantages. The first one is that you don't always have to carry all the weight. If one day you want to go for a shorter ride where you can enjoy the bike's agility more and overall have less weight, you simply remove the extender, leave it at home, and boom, you have a bike that completely changes its behavior. And the other issue has to do with the positioning of the battery weight inside the bike. If this bike had an 810 Wh integrated battery, it would fill the entire down tube included up to here, and the weight wouldn't be distributed as effectively as it is now. Because remember, we always want the weight to be as low and centered as possible and also as well distributed as possible. We have a 630 Dwage battery with the weight distributed as low as possible from this area down. But also the rest of the weight is distributed further back in a very centered and very low area, like where the bottle is located. So even though we're carrying the same weight, since it's distributed differently, it results in greater and lower agility, generation of inertia, ease of handling by the bike. And also another interesting thing to keep in mind is that when we have the extender connected, the energy from both batteries is discharged in a dual way. Both are discharged at the same time. They planned this at BH for the motor. Receives energy in a constant way without fluctuations, because in other brands where the extender is the first one to run out of energy towards the end of a climb, when there's little battery left, let's say the energy that reaches the motor isn't as constant because it's waiting to switch from one battery to the other. And here the consumption is dual and both go down at the same level. Here you have the huge climb I've chosen to do the test. Today I'm going to start at the top, giving iLYNX the maximum possible assistance. And I don't know, let's see how many meters of elevation gain I get right now. Range extender battery fully charged. I've used the minimum to get here. I'm about 5 kilometers from home, so let's see how it goes. Here's the dreaded climb, right now on a section of more than 15%. Repeat until the battery dies. Check it out, okay? Maximum power 15 per hour climbing here at more than 15%. And the motor roaring, you can really hear the sound, the maximum power of the Shimano motor. Just to mention, right now I'm carrying about 72 or 73 kilos between body weight and equipment. On top of that, I've been in good physical shape, but I'll also tell you, look, 94 heartbeats right now. The machine is doing everything. It almost left. Today feels like one of those days when I'll get more tired going down than up. In fact, wow, that's amazing. It's more likely that my heart rate is higher going down right now, which I can't even see, than going up. This trail is amazing. I could do it repeatedly and never get bored. There you have it, 2 hours later. Battery's almost dead. I'm saving the last bit to get home. And well, there you have the indicator beeping because it's already out of battery. Here's the data. 500 meters, nearly 1,600 meters elevation gain. In 2 hours, I'll subtract the 15 minutes it takes to get here, so it's about 30 kilometers approximately. Everything always at maximum power. 6 out of 6, the highest assistance level. Let's go over the components of this test unit that I received. In this case, it's the trail version with 140 millimeters of travel in the front and rear. A full Fox suspension, top of the line with Kashima and the 36 in the front. We have a 100% Shimano drivetrain with some XTR parts and many others XT. With a 1051 cassette, a 34 tooth single chainring, the brakes are Shimano XTR 4-piston. The wheels are ray-faced next to carbon with Maxxis 230 tires front and rear and a riser handlebar. The dropper post is Bite Joke and the saddle is Prologo. Motor. The handling of the bike is already amazing, huh? Really? This distribution of the battery weights makes it, I don't know, it's something different from what I've experienced so far in full power e-bikes with full battery capacity. I have to say, well, that's it while riding. Maybe it feels more like a Canon Motera from him with a 600 battery, not so much like an 810 bike. Like I'm riding now, huh? With the bottle on and everything. And it's simply because of the weight distribution, not just the reduction in weight. Hey. I should also mention the stiffness of the rear triangle, which is incredible. It's not just the stiffness, but also the control you have over the bike itself. Hold on, I had to stop for a moment because I just came from doing the AMFLOW review where precisely the weakest point that bike has is the lateral stiffness of the rear triangle, especially when the motor delivers full power. Here I had to stop and highlight how stiff the rear triangle of this BH is. It's incredible. I mean, I haven't tried anything like it, not in e-bikes, not in traditional bikes or anything like that. I think it's ultimately due to something BH has been doing for a long time, like the oversized axles and the huge linkages it uses. We've already seen all of this on the iLYNX race competition bike from the World Cup team with Coloma and the others. They've worked on this development for years, but on top of all this, you add the Super Boost, these axles that are incredible, which are also oversized. And in the end, you end up with a rear triangle that makes the bike very predictable, very easy to handle in any technical section, especially if it's twisty. And the geometry of the whole bike is very balanced. So by not having such slack head angles, extremely raked and so on, it makes it, I don't know, kind of like a video game, pretty much. Does it make you a better cyclist than you really are? I always say it, the split pivot and all the BH bikes can boost your technique from a 6 to an 8 or 8.5. Wow. Let's discuss pros and cons. And to be completely honest, I have to tell you that it's really hard for me to find something I don't like about this e-bike. maybe a small detail that I think BH should consider and improve in the future. It has to do with this Velcro, which is what holds the bottle, the range extender. I'm not criticizing its ability to hold the bottle. It actually fulfills that function perfectly. The bottle doesn't move at all. But I do think that a bike with this level of overall finish deserves to have something more than just a simple Velcro in that spot. Will you allow me to make a quick cut here because I'm in the middle of editing the video? I'm going to add two things that just came to mind that aren't entirely positive. The first one has to do with the ergonomics of the Shimano controller. This is something we've mentioned in other videos about bikes that come equipped with this system. Honestly, this controller has no ergonomics, let's put it that way. I really don't like having to move my thumb over the handlebar and lose all my grip strength just to change the assistance levels. Another issue is that this model you're seeing as it's currently being sold is not compatible with SRAM ST-Type. According to what the brand tells me, there will be updates in future versions. Yes, but currently only Shimano compatible options are available on the market. Things that I did like. The first thing I would highlight, without a doubt, has to do with the distribution of the batteries, the possibility of being able to use that extra bottle. When you have it installed, you have a full power bike with a full capacity of 810 WEH of battery and with an incredible energy saving as soon as you take it out. You have a bike that both in terms of final weight and handling is much closer to what would be a lightweight mountain e-bike, but with the power of a full power motor. And not only that, since there are already many other brands, but above all the issue of distributing the weight between two batteries. I think that here BH has gotten ahead because up until now the competition, or let's say that the trend in recent years was give me the more battery the better, the more power the better, the more the better. And I think that the topic of mountain e-bikes in the coming years is going to be more about handling capability, because these are bikes that when going downhill obviously need to have good power figures, motor performance, battery life and so on. But let's not forget that when going downhill, the bikes need to handle as closely as possible to a traditional bicycle. And with this weight distribution in two batteries and a balance, it's much more interesting than having everything in the front, everything on the down tube. Well, the truth is that this makes the bike's handling exceptional, whether or not you use the range extender. And this brings me to the second point that I would highlight, which has to do precisely with the handling. It's a bike that not only because of that feature, but also because of its geometry. Thanks to the well-designed rear triangle, overall build and final weight, it handles incredibly well. I think it's one of the best I've been able to try so far in e-bikes. And for the third point, I would definitely highlight the rear triangle. How is it designed? How can I put it? The extra it gives you as a biker on a technical level, and the confidence it gives you when going down difficult sections. Really, because the operation of split pivot is sublime. It's been proven in cross-country and World Cup competition. This suspension system completely separates the braking forces from the action of the shock absorber. You'll really appreciate it in areas with steep slopes and tough terrain. And then the combination of the Super Boost axles with this work that's been done both with oversized linkages and oversized through axles, and certain reinforcements throughout the rear triangle make the bike incredibly stiff, and in the end that translates to handling. Regarding the comparison with AMFLOW, which is the e-bike that's trending right now that everyone is talking about and that has somehow entered the market. Well, like an elephant in a china shop, I have an opinion that I think is interesting. Setting aside the fact that I've tested this BH in its 140mm front and rear version. There's an enduro version with more travel, but this is the trail version. I tested the AMFLOW with 160mm front and 150mm rear travel. But anyway, I don't think this has a huge impact for me to share with you. My opinion is that obviously both are very good bikes. But I think in this case, AMFLOW is a bike that really stands out in a catalog. Because of the specs it has right from the start, the weight, the numbers the motor gives on paper, and so on. However, I think the BH is a bike you have to try because it's a bike. It shows that when it comes to making bikes, to designing and building bikes, there's no one better than a company that has spent its whole life making bikes. And I think, as proof once again, we can talk about this rear triangle, about how the bike is built, because I think a lot of the development that the Vittoria brand has done in recent years, developing bikes for the cross-country World Cup, developing the split pivot system, I don't know, I think all of this has been transferred to the world in a very smart way. E-bike. To make this bike, and that's something, it's a, as the French would say, a savoir-faire. I don't think my accent is perfect, but well, you understand me, right? It's a way of doing things that a brand that's just entered the sector can hardly have, no matter what. I mean, they have to do a lot of trial and error, to get to that point. And BH has been doing that for years, and for me that makes the difference when it comes to the product. And now it's your turn. Leave your opinion in the comments. What score would you give the iLYNX Plus SL from 1 to 10? And if any of you already own one, then please leave your feedback there as well, so that people who read the comments don't just get my opinion, but also the opinions of the owners. Anyway, be very happy. I'll see you in the next videos. Give a big like and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. Bye bye.